and welcome to the Bradley Show. In a minute I'm going to be meeting Nick Hudson and we're going to be talking about his new album.
We actually got some prints of the church photo, photographic paper, comme ça.
Oh wow.
Which just looks absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
The manager of the Palaroca Hotel, where we've done a few shows recently,
Oh yeah, I've
he
noticed that on
actually
Facebook.
saw this and he said, was this a Photoshop job? Is this actually like a Renaissance masterwork you photoshopped your own faces onto? And I was like, I can die happy now, that's the best compliment I've ever had in my life. Did you see this? It's, they look good, don't they? They look really good.
Have a look.
Yeah, no, it's kind of exciting, so yeah. Maybe low final cut up and excellent work. It really is, it worked out rather well, didn't it?
Yeah. We've got rock royalty in there as well.
Where did you take it?
St Mary's Church.
Yeah.
How did they let you bring the dog in the church?
They didn't
They
know.
didn't know. And also he pissed on the altar. Which was
All the
excellent.
candles, you see in the background, all the
Yeah.
candles are lit.
Just amazing. I think the Academy of Sun, the acronym is TEOS, quite deliberately. It's a sort of fusion and hybrid of the notions of chaos and the Tao, so sort of hyperpolarized line between balance and absolute disorder. So we have that represented by Black Bloc Anarchist Animals Doing Semaphore, the acronym. Who wouldn't? The other hilarious thing is that there's a bunch of people in here who have since joined the band who were simply in act, sort of incidentally to start with. So, yeah, including Costi, who's on the auto harp. I'm going to make some coffee.
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's get this running on slow motion. So we can get it in full screen. And mute it as well. Shut up.
So these are your films?
Well, this is from the Our Planets video. Our Planets is the opening song on the record, which is 12 minutes long, and I wanted to make a queer revisionist zombie film for it, where the zombie state is one that is aspirational. So a lot of it, the majority of it stems from circumstances that befell a very, very intense relationship of mine. It was a beautiful, crazy, deeply cosmic and excitingly funny and charismatic, but quite deranged and damaged boy who I have no idea of the depths of his, or the extent of his sort of drug addiction when I met. And I don't regret a second of it, but it led us down some very, very dark rabbit holes. You know, I was just sort of like caught up in it all, and I was falling in love with him, so my preoccupation was creating an environment of care without any manual, you know.
Yeah.
And so it led to some very, very strange places. But anyway, this record, Codex Novena, things got better after that. He did go to rehab, and he's a lot better now.
So does he know about this album?
Yeah, he has heard all the demos. He even co-wrote one of the songs.
Oh, nice.
He's an exceptional pianist. He trained on Tolstoy's grand piano when he lived in Moscow when he was 16.
Oh, God.
After his multi-millionaire banker father married Tolstoy's great nephew. Rolls off the tongue.
Yeah.
And so he's an exceptional pianist, and there were very beautiful, transcendently, deep and cosmic magical moments between us, and the highs were as severely transformative as some of the lows. So it felt quite initiatory. However, it was kind of traumatizing in many ways for both of us.
Yeah.
Not because of each other.
Yeah.
That was one of the few things that kept us going, I think. But yeah. Anyway, so that's what is the genesis of the record in terms of its subject matter and its general
quite
emotional
very
tenor.
personal.
Yeah. I think it demanded a tribute,
Yeah.
and it's quite funny having this on in the background. Came out well, didn't it?
Pretty gory.
It's yeah. He was a real trooper. Anyway, cheers. Thank you for the wine.
Yeah.
Bless you. Yeah. Cheers all.
Oh, and we should actually go for cake as well. Right?
Yeah, damn right.
Oh, indeed.
Cheers. Wow.
And we have got 4 cakes.
Amazing. Thank you so much. So yeah, that's just to give you a little sort of semblance of the genesis behind the record. And part of the reason I wanted to make a zombie film was in the A, because I've always loved horror, but B, it was kind of a sort of in keeping with the general. If there is an agenda behind the record, it's about destigmatization of issues such as addiction and HIV, etc. It's about sort of provoking an open-hearted conversation about it rather than it being either of those things being the elephant in the conversation room.
Oh, that's interesting.
And so for instance, like this is a queer zombie love story, and that one of the lovers actively chooses to pursue the sort of zombie state, and the other partner is initially hesitant to advocate this, but then comes around to the idea.
The zombie state. Is this almost like a utopian idea?
Yeah, kind of. Well, there's two. I guess there's like
idea.
Yeah, to some extent. I mean, in the sense that they no longer fear death because they have sort of become deaf to some extent. So therefore, they no longer fear life. So they're sort of suddenly less beleaguered by the existential slings and arrows that befall people on a daily basis who are still convinced of their immortality, or haven't even sort of questioned the sort of implicit and inevitable mortality that faces them. You know. So
what's the
there is a subtextual sort of HIV kind of analog there, you know. And also in terms of like serial-discordant relationships, the lover who is played by me, who was initially hesitant about all this, then sort of runs to, you know, and they kiss at the end, even though one of them is sort of somewhat physically changed, you know. Basically, it's a classical love conquers all narrative, but filtered through some rather transgressive and avant-garde, layers. So, yeah, you know, we sort of like took advantage of horror tropes and zombie film tropes to subtextually infer a metaphor. You know.
Yeah.
So and the undead thing.
Yeah.
You know. Which I hope isn't crass, but yeah.
No, it's nice. It's nice to add. I think it's quite. I often like to add an element of like fantasy or that.
Well, it's something that people can connect with, and also if they connect with something that is kind of like a commercial, unrecognised series of generic tropes. Oh yeah. To then like use that as a satellite by which they can sort of bounce across, or have ideas bounced across that aren't necessarily particularly comfortable. At least there's a sort of a comfort zone within which they can dwell while they're invited to converse about these things.
Yeah.
You know.
How long have you two been collaborating?
Well, pretty much since we first met, isn't it? About 13 years ago, 14.
Crazy like that, yeah.
Yeah. It's instantly clicked musically, spiritually, and I don't know.
Yeah. And what do you do?
You know, and the other ways.
And what do you play? And what do you bring to it? I guess.
I don't know. I got commissioned by Max and Katie when we first met. It's like, you've got to keep this boy grounded.
What? To me?
Yeah.
Did you really?
She said that to me. Yeah.
Really? Well, you did a pretty wank job of that, didn't
I know.
you? Yeah.
Terrible.
Good job I kept you grounded as well.
I know, right?
Yeah. Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
There we go, you're bringing it all out of us now.
History, ancient history.
Grounded.
I told him.
I think you've done a pretty good job actually.
I told him to get to fuck and just kind of cracked on and got wankered with you.
Yeah. Cheers.
Made some excellent art.
Yeah, really. Yeah. Chris is a brilliant visual artist as well.
Uh-huh.
Chris. I mean, we'd always worked together.
Yeah.
in various collaborative ways. You know, Chris has played guitars on albums of mine that have never been released even from like 10 years ago. And Chris's own songwriting is super singular and very beautiful and sounds like nothing else. And visually, I mean, when he joined the band, he just started experimenting with bleach as a medium with which to draw and do calligraphy with.
How does that work?
I don't know. I'm not into the science of it, but
What does it look like?
what works.
How does it produce?
Where's the trousers?
Oh yeah.
Produce those trousers from there. Grab the jeans on the top. Yeah. I'll put them the right way around and we can. Oh, they are the right way around. So these are the bespoke Taos jeans. They're inside out. Yeah. There's a big hole in the arse. As well, you know, if you've ever studied biology. And now I look like I'm in Star Wars.
Well, basically, I just got sick of. There was a bit of a phase of massive slogans on T-shirts. I was like,
I think it was in response to Keep Calm, Carry On, wasn't it?
something like that. Yeah.
So I wrote a record on. I wrote a lyric on the last record of mine, Ganymede, State of War, and the lyric was no God, no guilt, no gender, no God, no guilt, no government. And we were preparing for a big show at the Old Market in Hove, for which we got Arts Council funding, which all went on the show, and Chris had already started producing all these bleach T-shirts, and so I said to him, I've just got these jeans, like, can you do it in bleach? No gender, no God, no guilt, no government, so I had the jeans, and so he did, and this has become sort of a bespoke and one of its kind piece of stage wear. And also that slogan appeared on the album cover. That was the album cover in and of itself. That text with my face sort of like
In the mirror, wasn't it?
yeah. So Chris means a lot aesthetically, and also just through our conversations, and also from collaborating in each other's lives so closely. You know, I mean, we see each other pretty much every day.
Like the thick and bulb of the band.
Pretty much. Yeah. And when things were going seriously awry, and I ended up living in hotels for what was originally supposed to be one night because he had started intravenously using drugs. I didn't want to. I was like, this is appalling. You really mustn't do this. It's like, but that's like, it's a completely impossible endeavour to convince somebody to stop doing it once they've started. Unless they want to. So I was like, okay, damage limitation. I did not want my flatmate to be witnessing this or to be around it, all the paraphernalia. Conversely, I also don't want him to be unable who's going to judge him for his, because I recognised very quickly that it's an illness in and of itself that attracts what I think is undue stigma, and should, the whole point is, there's a big conversation about addiction, which is geared around the idea that people become addicts because they're lacking a sense of tangible connection between themselves and other humans. So they seek a natural recourse into oblivion, So I didn't want to be able to be around judging him. I wanted to sort of create a sort of relatively safe space within which he could do that for as long as he was going to do so, despite nudging him constantly again, like, this is wank, you have to stop soon, this is bollocks. And
did you feel that you could have a positive impact, or did you find
I think I did in terms, I definitely did in terms of presenting a version of love that he'd never experienced, I think. And this was when he eventually went into rehab. This is what he wrote about in his life story, which is what occurs in 12 Step, I think. And he came out of rehab and he showed me the life story, and I was the only person within the entire of his 25 years that had written about it in a positive light, which was super flattering, And it was super convoluted, and very difficult because I was, people in recovery, yes, he would relapse, and then he would go through sort of cycles of attributing blame and then get clarity and go, no, it's all my responsibility, I'm sorry I blamed you for it, and to portray myself as entirely innocent is completely, you know, like, it's very difficult. I had no manual for that, you know.
Well, in relationships, you're always kind of entangled to some extent anyway.
Yeah,
So it's
really.
hard to-
Yeah.
And there's moments when you kind of don't necessarily do the right thing because, or you don't do maybe the best thing in that moment because you're kind of like trying to deal with the difficulties of being in a relationship.
In the first place, which is always
Yeah.
complex and
Yeah.
crazy, isn't it? You know, let alone when you're both slightly insane. You know, it's
How do you feel you kind of protected yourself in that situation? 'Cause that's one of the difficulties.
I absolutely didn't. Not remotely.
Yeah.
No, I completely didn't. No, I was scraped bare of flesh and bone and marrow, and yeah.
I was the only one there for that bit.
Yeah.
So we were living round the corner, you were living in your hotels.
And Chris used to go and check on us every day to see if we were still alive.
Still
and that's
making
not even
pot
an
noodles.
exaggeration. Yeah. Which is astonishing. So that's the sort of depth of that brotherhood, you know, like, emphasised very well there. No, I didn't at all. I had no idea what I was sort of letting myself in for, you know. But I always had a hunch that he was of a very, very good heart, very good and golden heart, which he is, isn't he? Yeah. But yeah, seriously, it felt like, I mean, I had to go for sort of PTSD counselling. When he went into rehab, I sort of self-exiled into a studio, I hired a studio to live in a warehouse outside of Brighton. Just to get some fucking solitude.
Yeah.
And I used to play piano and write. I lived a very monastic existence. I very rarely came into Brighton. Nobody came to see me. That was fine, you know. And I got like 6 months of free counselling for having been in a relationship with an addict, you know, which proved super useful. And I'd never done anything like that before. So for the first few sessions, I was very, very taciturn. And then it turned into a kind of like stand-up comedy routine, and I just sort of started treating it like Letterman, and then it was like, hey, so the last time we had you on the show, it was, you were talking about the time you filled a pot noodle up with used needles and piss and shit and presented it to your brother when he came to check on you to see if you were alive. How'd that go for you? You know, and I was like, well, you know, David, I mean, those were the salad years. It was, but yeah.
We laugh now.
We do now.
Well, it's hard. It's hard to not laugh, I think.
Well, there's essentially just throughout survival instinct. I mean, I think that's a lot of reason. That's through the sheer instinct of survivalism. You normalise things in real time, and it's only like after the fact that you start to go, "That was completely insane," you know.
Yeah. Well, I know that, you know, when I've gone through really hard stuff, one of the ways I kind of cope with it is kind of often making.
Stroke the therapy dog. Stroke the therapy dog.
This is what sorted everything out. Like, we didn't know when we got Babs that
Yeah.
conduit for change.
Exactly. No, it's true. You don't, do you? You know, because you're focusing with such minute detail on the sort of microscopic. You know. It's only when you actually get a break from it and you are granted the privilege of retroactive scrutiny that you start to go like, fucking hell, that was insane.
Yeah.
This is not going on the BBC, so we can swear quite openly, right? Yeah, cool.
Swear as much as you want,
Swear, drink, eat cake. This is great. Yeah, but that's the genesis of the record, you know. But it's called Codex Novena. I was chatting with a friend of ours called Karen Eng, who's part of the wider Teos family, and she's unusually psychic and very attuned. Always has been. I mean, she dreamt of me for 2 months before she met me, which is quite weird. And yeah, I know. She's a very, very odd one. She introduced me to the notion of a novena, because I was talking about prayers for healing. I knew it was going to be 9 songs, and she somehow sort of randomly sent me the novena concept, which is a Catholic conceit of a prayer repeated over 9 days. So I was already sort of positing the record. I tend to come up with systems every time I make a record. I'm never really interested in just like, oh, I've finished 10 songs, let's put it out, you know. There always tends to be a narrative. I mean, we've spoken extensively about things like Letters of the Dead, previous records of mine, where there's always a narrative and a very, very specific sort of sonic and aesthetic and dramatic environment within the record itself. Snuffle, snuffle. And
Right into it.
I know. So what does it do? I mean, the record itself is set sort of 1,000 years after the apocalypse, in which two non-specific lovers have sort of like transcended the eschaton and survive and exist as sort of angelic light beings made of stardust, sort of comparing notes over sort of their existence, their narratives together when they were sort of crass and clay human earthly beings, and then Karen just randomly sort of threw this Novena concept at me. I was like, okay, great, wonderful, that's perfect, and hopefully there won't be too many sort of Catholic influences, And the Codex obviously needs a book, so we wanted to sort of create sort of the black box that you extract from an aeroplane after it's crashed. So it's supposed to be sort of diary entries, this sort of journalistic kind of like, which is why the album is so raw lyrically. It's supposed to be sort of note-taking, compiled, and then drawn from the black box of the airplane that is the eschaton. For those in the future to look back and go, right, this is what humans did. Okay, right, and this is the particular love story within that nexus of narratives and everything. Did you know any of this, by the way?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Yeah.
So it's almost like it's got a almost religious element and a very autobiographical element.
Yeah. No, for sure. Yeah. You're self-mythologizing to the nth degree. Yeah. No, it would. I think it was such a narrative that it's such a narrative that demanded a kind of like immortalizing tribute, because I don't regret a second of it. I regret not having been equipped, the tools of care. But no, I mean, it definitely deserved a record, and like.
Well, it's nice to turn hard experiences into something kind of positive.
Well, yeah, and also I reconciled this the other day. We haven't spoken in about 5 months. We sort of, it's a hiatus, or I don't know, an indefinite hiatus, whatever. But I reconciled the other day that actually we both left the relationship each better than we did when we went into it, which is a really nice thing, right? Nice, so.
Yeah.
And I'm very happy that so I've sent him an email saying that the record is finished. I know you're healing and you need solitude. I wouldn't be so presumptuous as to impose it upon you, but I just want you to know that I hope you think I've done you proud, and as and when you would like to hear it, just give me a shout. But no obligation, because I know that you need solitude, so, yeah.
Nice.
Well, that was heavy, the last bit.
Did you get a thanks?
What? You what?
Did you get a thanks?
Does he get a thanks?
Yeah.
It's dedicated to him.
Yeah.
And to my grandmother. Yeah. Yeah. Of course he does. Yeah. Well, he did co-write one of the songs, didn't he? One of the best ones. So,
Co-wrote all of it.
We co-wrote all of it. He really did. Yeah. I remember playing him a demo of Ghost Before the Body in this really, really hipster bar in Soho. And he was like, dude, you've been channeling. I was like, uh-huh. Guess what it's about? He's like, I have no idea. But yeah, is there any more sort of broader questions you want to ask?
I suppose I was going to ask you, because how long has Academy of Sound been going?
Well, so I think about, what year is it? It's 2017. I think about 8 years, I think. I don't remember coming up with a name. I remember why I came up with the name. I don't remember exactly why I came up with it. But it's when it became impossible for me to continue performing solo. Using the name Nick Hudson, because exponentially the people who are performing with me sort of grew from sort of 2. We used to get away with sort of saying it's a solo gig if there's 3 people playing. But when you're suddenly sort of 7 people, it's no longer a solo show. So I came up with a band name, and it's inevitably sort of gone through various incarnations over the last 8 years. The first one actually was for a show at St Mary's Church in Kemptown, where I just produced my first actual album rather than just a collection of songs with like a bunch of theme stuff. It was on the Julian Cope reviewed very favourably, which was amazing. And I decided to premiere it as a chamber work, unamplified, lit only by candlelight, so completely son electricity in St Mary's Church, because the acoustic was so good. And so we had a 15-part sort of chamber orchestra, and I was sort of scoring everything for that, and it was a really wonderful concert. And then I was like, okay, right, well, let's keep this band going, see what happens. And inevitably, I kept writing. Every album I make is very different. Just because I'm enormously restless, and but gradually it's coalesced over the last few years into a sort of pretty fixed lineup. I mean, you've been with us for, Chris was always kind of ambiently a member anyway, but actually started playing in the band probably about 4 years ago, is that right?
I think so,
3 or 4?
About that.
Yeah. And then it's just sort of crystallised into a lineup that just makes sense over the last 2 years. It's,
Because so you've worked for so many different types of people.
Yeah. So the wider family, and in keeping with the sort of the nature of an academy, on the Facebook page, half jokingly, I sort of have a list of sort of former alumni as well. And it's so funny to read back on that. I mean, it numbers about 30 people, sort of previous members of the Academy of Science. But I mean, this feels good. I mean, it's now sort of coalesced into a form where actually it feels like a proper band rather than Nick augmented by musicians. It's become a lot more democratic in the way that we make choices and decisions. I hope you
It was kind of a chamber orchestra before, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Brilliant one.
Yeah, no, but it was for sure. Yeah, and everything was kind of like written. But since it coalesced, she's so cute. Since it coalesced into a band, and all the musicians in the band are so exceptional and singular, and all from such different backgrounds. I mean, it's like increasingly I less arrange their parts. I was like, well, what can you bring to this? What do you want to do? And,
Yeah, constantly challenging motherfucker.
Yeah.
Can't I come up with a bit?
And so,
Yeah.
how do you sort of feel like it relates to genre? How do you feel it relates to
You see, I have very mixed opinions on that word. I don't know.
Thanks to Uncle Steve.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I don't know. I mean, I'm very, very anarchistic in the way that I perceive of aesthetics or labelling or whatever, I'm very anarchistic innately, as well, I think definitions, by their very nature, lend themselves to disempowering the thing that's being defined. And I've had extensive chats with Abby, our bassist, about this. Who's been a professional musician for 20 years. I think, on the one hand, genres and genre definitions and genre labels are very useful in terms of a shorthand.
Yeah.
I also think they're enormously dangerous in terms of nuking the essence of something.
Well, sometimes it's good if you want to get a particular audience.
Really. If you're a blues band, you want to go to blues pubs.
Yeah.
But we're not.
Yeah.
We don't think we're anything. I mean, people ask me what are the influences who do you sound like? I'm like, well, I don't know. Hopefully nobody, but hopefully we sound enough like music you might have heard
Chris! Quick! There's cake! Oh, cake! You what? It's not that sneaky, you just announced it. You what, love? Can't hear you. You're talking cod.
Wow. It's one of my 5 a year. Destination. I've been on a massive like Herzog bender recently. Actually, I went home to visit my parents and thought, oh, what better time to watch Fitzcarraldo with them? And then we watched Bird in the Dream documentary as well. Yeah. Oh, it's fantastic. Yeah. When he was sort of like really quite insane. Herzog, he finds in nature is a jungle erotical, I do not find it erotical. I find it strangulating and violent.
So is it?
This is a Herzog talking about Kinski and the time they're making Fitzcarraldo. It's a bird.
So there was just a documentary about Kinski, isn't it? That.
My Best Fiend, which is fucking brilliant. Yeah. He was insane, Kinski, wasn't he? Like really not very well, you know. But Herzog as well, you know, sort of reputation being slightly more sane in this Bird in the Dream documentary, you know, coming out some shit like, Kinski finds the nature erotical legend is finding erotical legend is strangulating and violent, and I admire it for that. And these birds, they are not singing, they screech in pain. it's like, cool, bro. You alright? You okay, hon? Well, we'll just have to eat Chris's cake then, won't we? Oh yeah, that'll work.
I've locked him out.
Really? Hello.
Lovely shade of dark.
I loved you in that Hideo Nakata film. Please lock the door so he doesn't eat the feline. Thank you. He got a mark. It's great, right? Keeps Brian out.
It's Brian the cat.
No, he's a local paedophile. Rockable baby. Look at this. Isn't this awesome? Right, where were we up to? What were we talking about?
We were talking about Academy of...
Oh, the band. Yeah, they're pretty
Band.
good. You should check them out.
Yeah.
Just come and see.
Yeah.
And then we talked a little bit about genre, didn't we? And then...
Yeah. Influences you were asking about.
Oh,
yeah.
influences, yeah.
Again, when I get that question, I sort of like, I'm very hesitant to, or rather I'm not instantly drawn to replying in terms of musicians.
Oh, here's an
I mean, like,
okay.
I'm more influenced by film and literature
That's a good word.
than I am by musicians, really. So that's more like competition, isn't it? You know? So I'm more influenced by people like Francis Bacon and David Lynch and I don't know, Sylvia Plath from when I was a kid, and you know, Dylan is a musician I would constantly recourse to, and that's his fault. Very, very happily, you know. I'd never really listened to Dylan until I was about 26. But it was via him, you know, we were doing a lot of mescaline. And he was like, hey Nick, listen to this. And I just sat there and, you know, partially it was because I was
Masters of War.
tripping on Gates of Eden.
Gates of Eden, yeah.
Yeah, and then I was like, oh my god, right, so this is actually transcendent use of words within a pop context, and that sort of opened the floodgates, and that's when my own songwriting took a... I mean, I've kind of been like pursuing that anyway, in the sense of like couching quite confrontational and strange and poetic stuff within a folk form, which is when I first started writing songs, but I'd never really sort of like been given the green light that Dylan via Chris had given me to go completely like berserk with it, you know, as a sort of pursuit of religious ecstasy in terms of what you can actually sing about, you know. But there was always this like twin passion for film. So I'd always sort of been drawn to like layering images, you know, in terms of lines of lyrics to create a kind of like mise en scène or whatever, or a sort of montage effect. Hence I did film academically rather than music. Because I was like, well, I can't really bother to do music. I'm doing it anyway. You know, like whereas, you know, there's things that I can't teach myself about film, and so therefore I was like pursue that. But yeah, gobble gobble cheesecake. Was that breakfast for you?
Was it for you?
Not quite.
Oh. It's got coffee in
divine.
it as well.
That's outrageous.
Good.
That's fucking beautiful. Look at her on the Teos jeans. That's how we should market ourselves. This is brilliant. Yeah, I mean, there's people like Björk and Kate Bush and Nick Cave and Roy Harper and Robert Wyatt and such who I definitely draw some excitement from, you know. Never consciously embodying the form or the colour or tone of what they do, but inevitably it's sort of when you encounter something that's so life-changing, it sort of shifts you a bit. Like, I mean, when you kind of got me into Bowie as well, actually. You're weird. Yeah. He was playing me Hunky Dory because when I was like sharing a room for about 6 months when he was homeless. And he was showing me all the stuff that he got into, and Hunky Dory by Bowie. I'd heard like the hits because I grew up with, I was born in 81.
You
so
didn't like it at first.
Did I not?
No.
Really?
No.
Did I not? What? Like what bit? Like,
you thought it was like really contrived at first.
did I?
Yeah. I remember because I felt a bit crestfallen because my brother who'd always like got me into music. I was like, look what I found, and he was like, yeah, it's alright. It's a bit contrived.
Really?
Like, yeah.
Wow. Then I wept for a year after he died.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Then something suddenly clicked, didn't it?
What's his name with Dylan? I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I sort of like took the baton and ran with it. You know?
Yeah, absolutely, and got me into different songs I'd never heard.
Quid pro quo, Dr. Lecter.
Yeah.
But that's why I'm in rapture with this cheesecake. Try some cheesecake.
Yeah, I need to try it.
It's delightful. What else were you going to touch upon? What would you like to touch on? Ask me anything.
Okay. So we've gone through influences and we've gone through okay, so like we were talking about film a second ago.
Yeah.
Obviously film's quite important to this as well.
Can't how good that looks. Brilliant, isn't it?
So do you just make the films yourself?
Well, the videos for the band.
Yeah, how much are you
Well, I have. Yeah, I mean, I've like made films in the past. I've never really made music videos for my own stuff in the past.
Because you made
There was a film attached to Letters of the Dead, which is an
Yeah.
album I made, I think 2 records back. That was always conceived as a narrative refracted through various media that would mutually inform each other in terms of a better understanding of the narrative. So between the film and the libretto booklet and the album on both vinyl and CD, and what I missed, and the theatre piece, you would get a sort of expanded universe sense. You know, a lot of that comes from Peter Greenaway, which he also got me into. So, for instance, every time Greenaway would make a film, there would then be the sort of visual book of it would come out, which would be a series of his paintings, because that's what he was foremost and initially. This is why films are so immaculately lit and so beautifully framed and composed, you know. Same with Jarman, there was always the painterly side of it, you know, like. And so I thought that was a really interesting way to expand the story world and keep the listener stroke viewer engaged, was to create different ways of engaging with whatever material you're presenting simultaneously, so they can sort of satellite bounce off each other. And that's kind of what we're doing with this. I mean, ultimately we are going to make I've never made music videos for any of my own songs before, but I knew with Codex Novena there's such mileage in the material, and it's been a complete labour of love in the most literal sense, and we're all in our own way kind of visual artists or like performance artists in our own write anyway now. You know, like everybody in the band has their own discipline going on, their own like aesthetic concerns that are very highly developed, and it just felt entirely natural to sort of like provoke that and sort of continually make stuff. Just not because I particularly want to continue dwelling in the tales of bloody towels and kind of poor needle disposal. It's not about that, you know. Those were just symptoms of a life-changing series of circumstances. But it's more about sort of telling more stories attached to them, sort of like you know, using these songs we've now finished and that sort of work as things that we can sort of look upon prismatically and sort of interpret. So there's 9 songs on the record, and I've sort of owned the Out Planets one because that's the opening track, and it's a microcosm of the entire album sonically and narratively. And plus, I wanted to do the zombie film myself, but you know, hello, Piglet. But I've actually like delegated like director duties to other people in the band to get on with, you know, to see what their interpretations are.
Yeah.
So you're going to be working on one at some point in time, aren't you? Blue, who's our keyboard player, he's been working on a video for the song Wake and Walk Away, and I don't know anything about it, and I find that quite exciting. I'm kind of like, cool, great, don't tell me anything, I don't want to know, just present a finished version. And
so it's a really collaborative.
Yeah. Likewise, we're outsourcing remixes, so that
Very
sending
impressed with your letting go of the material.
Well,
Hearing
it's
some of the stuff back, it's really incredible.
Yeah.
You played of Keith's.
Yeah, Keith from Howgate, who I toured with and who we played with over the last few years. They're a New York avant-garde composition band that are really quite incredible. I did a 2-month tour with Keith and Toby from Howgate last year. We become like best mates, as inevitably the Stockholm syndrome kicks in.
Yeah.
You know, if you hate each other before, you end up like marrying each other. But I sent all the stems of the record to Keith, and he sent back an incredible remix of one of the songs, "Narcissistic on the Cross," which is one that I wrote. But no, it's nice. But that's also a way of sort of attaining closure, is like becoming less precious about the material by sending it out to people and going like, "Look, I try," and also going like, "I trust you to do whatever you want with it," and you know.
Would you
very
ever,
impressive.
would there be a moment like where someone sends something back and you think, I don't want to use that, or would you have that moment? Or would you just?
I don't know, because I kind of like, I like the idea, and this goes back to my sort of innately anarchistic kind of like attitude of like issuing no brief with that, because, and this comes back, this again relates to my kind of ambivalence towards the notion of genre. And that it's I see sort of like the songs themselves are kind of like tools for endless rearrangement, and you know, there's so many ways that you could, like the core skeletal components of a song, right? Which would be the chords, the meter, the length of each chord, the duration of each chord within a structural framework, and the melody and the lyrics. I mean, they're sort of somewhat fixed, but the ways that you can embellish that and augment it are endlessly variable and endlessly interpretable.
Yeah.
And so I see that as redolent of the remix kind of paradigm, where you can just like feed out all the stems, and you're like, and I've said to people, I don't really care what you do. There's no brief here. These are just tools for you to create an entirely new composition with, and I'm intrigued to see what you do. And so we're going to be putting out a digital remix album.
I suppose you wouldn't send it to somebody who's going to produce something that's shit. You know?
I don't know, I might.
Would you?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I think it would be really fun. I mean, most of the people I would want to remix are unfortunately dead, you know. But
Timmy Mallet.
yeah. Sue Pollard, you know, Boris Johnson would be a good one. No, but I probably wouldn't, because it would be reflective of the expanded universe. So there's a bit of a rudder.
Yeah.
2 of my 5 a week.
So do you think there's any sort of themes or kind of sort of line, something that runs through all the different cutting of some projects?
yeah, pretty much the love songs.
That's very bloody accurate, yeah. That's a very, very good distillation of what they're about. They are, yeah. They're either songs about love between two people, one of which is usually me, or they're songs about a lack of love between, or a lack of love within society itself, or they're songs for versions of love that weren't permitted in the past.
It's all pretty much what songs are about anyway, isn't it?
They're all about love,
They're
sex,
all
and
love
death.
songs.
Yeah.
So do you have sex and death as well then? Is that
Just a bit. Yeah. We've spoken about this before. I do want to make a porn album because I hate the idea that, you know, like
All that stuff that people just have lying around just goes to waste.
yeah. No, right, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it'd be nice to get a scrapbook and just glue it in there and just, you know, like, retire to the
Get some
Hebrides.
cold hard cash out of it.
No, just kind of think like, you know, why don't we talk more openly about sex? You know, it's actually it's far more innately mammalian than any of the crap that we abstract into poetry or philosophy or whatever. You know, like why is it not sort of just? I mean, nobody wants to hear a song that. You know, there is a band called Pursuit. There was Peter Christopherson had sort of dalliance with before he died, which really is just sort of porn samples over really bad industrial beats. But I mean, there's ways I think to talk about sort of like physical frisson and sex that could be as poetic as using sort of, as my dear friend dead Paul Stanway, who's a poet, put it, like poets using poetry words. You know, like it's like, oh, it's poetry because it uses certain words, you know, and sort of compares somebody's eyes to the moon. You know, why can't we talk about people's bodies in as rapturous and ecstatic a way? You know, some do, of course. You know.
Two examples of poetry words.
Have you heard of Venetian snares?
Yeah, I love them.
They used like they had a whole album where they were fucking and then used all the sounds as like instruments.
Yeah, no, I love the one with the integration. My Downfall by Venetian Snares is fucking incredible. I think he uses Bartok samples, doesn't he?
Not sure, but he uses all kinds of weird stuff.
Yeah, he's fucking astonishing. I saw the Volks a few years back. I was the only one not on pills, but I didn't need to be. I think I was still higher than everybody else because I was like, yeah. It's an odd one because now the Academy is sort of formalised into a more democratic unit of like relatively fixed lineup. There's now, because I would just sort of write and hemorrhage songs, now there's certain things that I'm writing where I'm like, well, that's probably not actually fit for the Academy. Whereas that is, you know, so yeah, it's one of those natural sort of.
Do you feel that then you might end up with a second outlet or something like that? Is
Something about that. I mean, I've always had a solo.
Yeah.
Well, there already kind of is with the trio, isn't there? The ballad.
Because there's about 4,000 people in the Academy of Sound, it makes it quite difficult to tour. And so in the interest of sort of furthering awareness of the enterprise, we've taken Ash the drummer, Maria the violinist, and myself on guitar and voice, or piano and voice, with a kind of like a whole other set. Because all the time that I was working on Codex Novena, I was also writing songs for Ben in the present moment. I mean, there's songs I wrote when his head was in my lap, when he was just like hysterically crying and he thought he was going to die. And I'd just come up with all these lyrics and sort of sing them to him while stroking his head and stuff. And some of these are delicate ballads that were just not fit for a 7-piece band. You know, and so there's a whole other set that we now do as sort of an entity which we call Chaos Trio. And I guess that will endure because I seem to be writing more and more in that realm at the moment. You know. I mean, it's been 3 years we've been working on Codex Novena. It's colossal. And it's fucking huge.
Room 308 of the Layers Hotel will be like a legendary hotel.
Yeah, really? Yeah.
Bright.
Yeah. Your face when you walked in and only been there a day. It's like fucking train spotting in here.
Very stinky. Did it?
Well, it's because we were whisked away to Scotland. Yeah, I had the foresight to actually book a holiday in Scotland with James Mackay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was like, and this
Bring him into it.
I was like, he'd love it. Yeah. I was like, this is not sustainable. I think my subconscious, which has always been kind of like, which is probably why I'm not dead. It's because my subconscious comes and goes, maybe you'd like to go to Scotland. Because I was about 8 stone at that point.
Eat some octopus.
Yeah. So in the midst of this hotel dwelling period, we all fucked off to Inverness to go hang out with James. When we got back, it was even worse into it. And it was just like, I don't know, what do you think the next album is going to sound like?
I think it's going to be a lot more liberated. You kind of you're over that. A lot more focused, I think.
It's going to be more bouncy, I think, isn't it?
Yeah. Because I think with I think you've taken on the yoke.
Yeah, no, really, yeah.
But with that, you've gained like a buoyancy
a playfulness
and a no bullshit sort of.
Well, the new
aspect.
lyrics that I've
It's
been
always
writing
been
are
there,
really,
but
yeah.
like, now it's sort of crystallised. Yeah, and it's showing in your songwriting now.
Thank you.
More than ever, yeah.
It is. It's really, really distilled, isn't it? Actually?
That's the word. Yeah.
And it's not about personal circumstances either, which is kind of fun. I mean, inevitably it is. There's things I'll encounter that will trigger it, but it's just kind of like, there's a lot of it is like really observational. Musically as well, the stuff's absolutely insane. There is stuff in the works. We'll see.
Well, I
We're
suppose
going to write an album of 3-minute pop songs, aren't we?
That's going to happen. Yeah. We have one, don't we, already? Called Everything at Once Forever.
you can
I'm
take
super.
this. Obviously, you haven't mentioned this influence. Right.
What, velvet?
No, your
Jeans?
t-shirt.
Denim? What are you talking about? Socks?
Your t-shirt.
Don't know what you're talking about.
The Merkin.
The Merkin, yeah. Merc in the room. Huh? Oh, Ellen DeGeneres. Yeah. Yeah, I love lesbians. I think they're brilliant. The dog's farted. What, Bieber? I think he's amazing. Yeah, I'm going to marry him. I'd like to be the monkey he abandoned.
I think you've always had that t-shirt for like... Oh no, not that t-shirt, but t-shirts like that. Is this your signature? Kind of.
Well, it confuses people because in the band we make extremely noisy,
It takes
abrasive...
ages to sign autographs.
No, it's just funny, because again, there's that thing, like, for instance, if you make, like, loud, noisy, psychedelic music, everyone's like, they expect to see you in a Swans t-shirt, or a Bad Seeds t-shirt, so to turn on a Bieber t-shirt is just like, fuck you. Also, it's not just a kind of, like, a pose, I do like him, I think he's extremely talented, and I like how patently insane he is, with his imminent Britney-style downfall, like, which will probably produce... maybe years down the line, something akin to Scott Walker's The Drift. But no, there is, it's very interesting to confuse people that it comes about that genre conversation, right?
Yeah.
Because I was wearing a Banana Man t-shirt the other day and everyone was like, oh, what's that manga? I was like, it's not manga, it's not that cool. But imagine like turning up anywhere dressed in the costume you're expected to turn up in. How boring would that be?
It's rather boring, yeah.
You never have. I've known you about 7 years. You never look the same. Even when I blink, you look somewhat different.
It's probably true. So thank you for watching. This has been The Bradley Show. Don't forget to subscribe and feel free to comment. See you soon.
Innocence it offered me, I do not crave its company. It has not much to say to me. I'll buy the Hong Kong movement. Buy the Hong Kong movement. Innocence it offered me, I do not crave its company. It has not much to say to me. I'll buy the Hong Kong movement. Buy the Hong Kong.
Excellent. Okay.